Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Another argument provided by Dan Gibson to prove that Islam started in Petra was the location of Dushara, the god of the Nabateans. And in his argument, Dan relied on the story of one of Prophet Muhammad's companion whose name was At-Tufail ibn Amr ad-Dawsi. Let's go and watch.
Petra also has many temples. Over here is what is known today as the Temple of the Winged Lions, or the Temple to Al-Uzza. Behind me is what is known as Kesr al-Bint today, or the Temple to the god Dushara. This short chain of mountains here was the home to the god, and here in the very heart of the mountains is the temple to this god, El-Dushara.
Now, Ibn Hisham relates to us a very interesting story. It's very early in Islamic history. Only a few people have converted to Islam at this time. One of those was a man known as Al-Tufail bin Amr of Mecca. He accepted Islam on one of his journeys, and once he returned home to Mecca, his wife also decided to accept Islam. Al-Tufail then tells his wife to go to the temple of Dushara and cleanse herself there. In the sacred area, there was a trickle of water where she could wash herself. She did this and returned home and learned about Islam.
Did this story take place in Mecca, 1,000 kilometers away, where there is no temple to Dushara? Or did it take place here in Petra? If it did, then Dushara's temple is there. She would have come down to this temple, washed herself, and gone home. Is there a temple to Dushara in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia? No, there are no temples.
A very short clip, but still full of lies, distortions, misrepresentation, deceptions. Let's dismantle this argument little by little. First, they claim that At-Tufail was from Mecca.
One of those was a man known as Al-Tufail bin Amr of Mecca.
Which is wrong. He was not At-Tufail bin Amr of Mecca. He was from a tribe called Daws. Daws was a tribe which lived south of Mecca in what is known today as Baha. So the companion's name was At-Tufail ibn Amr ad-Dawsi. The YouTube documentary called him At-Tufail ibn Amr of Mecca. Second, they claimed that At-Tufail accepted Islam in one of his journey and then he returned home to Mecca. Then his wife accepted Islam. Which is again false, because At-Tufail ibn Amr ad-Dawsi accepted Islam in Mecca and then he returned home. Then his wife accepted Islam. Let's go and read the story from the same source Dan Gibson used in his documentary. And let's see if the original story agrees with what Dan Gibson claimed. This is from Cira Ibn Hisham. If you read from the fourth line from the top, it says that At-Tufail used to say that he came to Mecca when the apostle was there, and some of the Quraysh immediately came up to him. So At-Tufail came to Mecca as a visitor. Let's carry on. They told him that his fellow had done them much harm, had divided their community and broken up its unity, separating a man from his father, his brother, or his wife. So it's clear from the story that At-Tufail was a stranger to Mecca, because the Quraysh tribe was talking to him about Prophet Muhammad and what harm he had allegedly done to them. If At-Tufail was from Mecca, he wouldn't need the people of Quraysh to tell him about Prophet Muhammad, right? He would have known. So here we prove that At-Tufail was not from Mecca. And we used the same source that Dan Gibson used in his documentary. And here's another evidence from the same account, which proves that At-Tufail was not from Mecca. Let's read the last 3 lines. At-Tufail says, "Then I preached Islam to those, but they held back, and I went to the apostle in Mecca." Do you see how he clearly differentiates between the place where he preached Islam to his tribe and the place he talked to Prophet Muhammad? He said, "And I went to the apostle in Mecca." If those was already in Mecca, then why would At-Tufail need to say, "Then I went to the apostle in Mecca"? Now that we knew that At-Tufail was not from Mecca. And now that we knew that the conversation he had with his wife about Dushara was not happening in Mecca, it is clear that Dan's argument about Dushara is self-refuting. Because if anything this story shows us, it is the fact that Dushara did not exist in Mecca, because At-Tufail asked his wife to go near Dushara after he came back from Mecca. And after his wife accepted Islam, he tried to preach to his people, and when they rejected, he went back to Mecca to meet the Prophet. So the most evident conclusion of this story is that Dushara and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ existed in two different places. Thanks, Mr. Dan Gibson, for refuting your own theory with your own arguments. Now, there's one thing that we need to explain before ending this video. For the purpose of not leaving any unanswered question, you might be wondering, do I suggest that At-Tufail ibn Amr al-Dawsi lived in Petra? Well, no, I'm just using Dan Gibson's own argument to refute his Petra nonsense. Because At-Tufail lived in Daws, and Daws is in Baha, south of Saudi Arabia. So why are they talking about Dushara in Daws when Dushara was in Petra? Simple. In this book, which was dedicated to Frederick Ward Putnam, in page 589, the authors write, in the territory of Daws tribe there was a hema dedicated to him, and in it a pool of water in which probably worshippers had a ceremonial bathing. In the same book, the author says, the cult of Dushara prevailed over the region extending from the north border of Yemen through the desert up to Syria. So the idol of Dushara was worshipped in many places in the Arabian Peninsula. If a tribe from south of Arabia want to worship Dushara, they wouldn't have to travel all the way to Petra in order to worship it. Each tribe, each city will have their own place of worships. And likewise those, they had what they called a hema, a sacred area where killing, slaughtering animals, cutting trees was prohibited. Finally, as you have seen, this evidence provided by Dan Gibson proved him to be a liar, a deceiver, and exposed the ignorance and absurdity of his claims. First of all, At-Tufail was not from Mecca, he was from Daws. Second, he didn't ask his wife to go to the Dushara in Mecca, he was in his hometown when he did that. Third, it is not unheard of in pre-Islamic Arabia that certain deity is worshipped in different parts of the Arabian Peninsula. In the same account Dan Gibson used in his YouTube documentary, Ibn Hisham is saying that the Dushara was a deity for Daws. Notice the same source Dan Gibson used in his video not only destroys his argument, but also destroys his whole theory of Petra being the original place of Islam. So here we go again. We have refuted another argument that Dan Gibson made, and we showed that what appears to be a very sound argument when presented in his video is actually very absurd. And that's it. See you soon in another video debunking the Petra nonsense of Dan Gibson. Thank you so much for watching. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.